Welcome to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast, empowering you to take a whole person approach to your well-being, spirit, soul, and body. Join me, your host, Dr. Ana Lara, naturopathic doctor, entrepreneur, and a servant of Jesus Christ. We are not just a body, we are spirit and soul. It's time to integrate medicine and spirituality into our healing. Let's get started. Welcome back to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ana Lara. In this episode, we're going to talk about how acupuncture works. So acupuncture is a therapy that's been around for over 3,000 years. It's very old, and it's been used to prevent illness, diagnose illness, and treat disease. So as a naturopathic doctor, I was so lucky enough and fortunate enough that here in the state of Arizona, our curriculum included acupuncture, and we were licensed to treat like an acupuncturist. So we learned how to diagnose, and diagnosing means asking various questions, right, of the person, but also learning how to pulse diagnose, which we would listen to the radial area of the of the veins to feel the pulse, and each pulse point will give us information of internally what is each organ doing. And it's really interesting how the physical body will give us information. The other point of diagnosis that we've learned to treat is to look at a person's tongue. And it's really interesting because each area of the tongue is associated to certain organs, but also those organs, those systems give us information of what the person is mentally and emotionally processing, what they're experiencing. So oftentimes if I look at a person's tongue and they have like teeth marks at the sides of their tongue, I know that that person's been thinking a lot, worrying a lot, just mentally processing things a lot. And I'll ask them, have you been thinking a lot or worrying a lot? And they're like, yeah. And there's certain parts of the legs that pertain to that particular organ, which is the stomach and the spleen. I'll go and push on a certain point and it's really painful. So when we know that a point is painful, it's typically because there's a deficiency in that system. So I want to explain not just the fact that we're putting this hair thin needle into the skin, right, into a certain part of the body. It is a whole philosophy and theory. And I know that in Christianity, I've heard it's kind of like a 50-50. Some don't care. They're okay with it. And there's some people that are like, oh, this is not Christian-like. You shouldn't do this because it comes from Eastern philosophies and that's not godlike. And I want to remind you that so does our Bible. Our teachings come from, Middle Eastern areas. And so it's not from this country, just like acupuncture is not from this country. It's very interesting how the Chinese were able, and a lot of other Asian cultures were able to understand the body and how it functioned. And so this is how they understood it, and they gave it these names and terms. But now in science, I can tell you that when we look at these meridians, so these meridians are points of the body that are associated to a certain organ. I can tell you that these meridian lines are consistently in line with our nervous system. So for example, and I'll tell you this, the nerves, the arteries, and veins run together in our body. That's how we learn anatomy in school, is if you learn to identify a vein, you can locate the artery and also the nerve in that area. They're all run together. So this is, I'm just kind of showing off for those who are listening and not watching. The arm, the thumb part of the arm is referred to as the radial aspect of the arm, so into the forearm. And in this part, we have an artery, we have a vein and a nerve. And right along that is the lung meridian. Interestingly, the lung meridian is right along the nerve that innervates through this area. So we know that the nerves are right there, and most likely that's what they were treating, was the nervous system, which is why it helps mentally, emotionally, and physical ailments. So it is a very complex system, okay? I mean, it takes years to understand the theories and treatment, all the meridians, all the acupuncture points. I promise you, it's not voodoo. It's not. People think that by inserting a needle in the body that you have like a little voodoo doll. Like, no, that's not what it is, guys. It's really working on the nervous system. So these needles, they're sterilized. You can only use them one time. So they're sterilized to prevent infection. We typically clean the area, insert this really fine, thin needle. Sometimes people don't even feel anything. They don't feel a poke. And sometimes people feel like an electrical shock of energy moving up that meridian point. And that's exactly what I'm referring to. That is part of the nervous system. It's associated to those nerves. And so if they feel, I always tell my patients, if you feel an electrical like shooting, like energy up your leg or your arm or wherever it's going, I said, that's a good thing. That means that there was a blockage somewhere in that meridian point and it cleared up that channel. So now proper flow of information through the nerves can go to that area. And so I always explain to people who don't understand acupuncture or think it's weird, our body, God designed it in such a beautiful way and very, very complex that I truly believe we have yet to fully understand how it fully functions. And there's so many things that we still have to discover and understand, like I said, how it works. But our brain is, like the main computer. And from there, we have the spinal cord and we have nerves that exit through each area of the spinal cord, sending information to organs and muscles and so forth. This is the intelligent part of the physical body. It is the nervous system. And so it's kind of like an electrical information that it's sending. So if there's impingement or there's an area that's restricted, the rest of the body or the organ is not going to receive the information. And sometimes our mental state of mind, what we're constantly thinking and doing, or what we're physically doing or emotionally what we're doing, it changes the electrical output of this nervous system. So it's similar to, for example, this microphone that is right in front of me is powered up through an electrical cord. There's cords here, and it's plugged into an outlet. It's receiving power from that electrical outlet. That electrical outlet is not just magically receiving energy through there. It's receiving it from somewhere else. Maybe it's the circuit box outside of here. That box that's sending it, power from a greater source, it minimizes it to send it to this microphone so it doesn't explode in my face. It's the same for the camera, the same for everything else. And so, but that power that this box is receiving, it's receiving power, energy from a greater source, that's from the streets, all the power lines that are sending the power, the energy down. It's being from a greater source. And then you have the power plants, right? Power plants are transferring that kind of energy, that's high energy. It's reducing it to a smaller form so that it makes it into your house so that it can power up your TV and all your electronics. That same system that humans created, God created within us. Isn't that amazing? So the brain, which is that's our power plant, it's sending energy through the spinal cord and into our nerves, and then through smaller nerves that it's innervating through our hands. That's allowing me to move my hands. It's allowing me to speak. It allows me to move. It's our nervous system. I oftentimes tell people the benefits of exercising is not to gain the muscle. It's for your nervous system. You're giving your nervous system the ability to execute this power so that it keeps your brain, it keeps your nervous system healthier and younger and vital. That's the physical structures we're working with. So when I refer to acupuncture, it's like I'm an electrician and I'm going through your house and finding where are the areas of weakness. And it's not like by some hocus pocus magic that I'm figuring out. It's by what the person tells me that they're experiencing. The pulses in their tongue let me know these areas are deficient. And it works. It's 3,000 years old. It's the most effective, safe and effective therapy out there in the world that doesn't cause harm. I actually treated people who, through COVID, that couldn't receive IVs because they were on either dialysis, and so fluid, excess fluids and certain vitamins were too much for the kidney. I did acupuncture on them, and I did go online and I looked at what other Asian countries, they were posting their protocols online, and just through my own, thought process and observing the patients, I'm like, oh yeah, we got to work on the lung meridians and so forth, help the lungs. And let me tell you, the people who did just acupuncture, no vitamins, no treatments, no nothing else, not only did they recover faster, they seem more vital after. And I mean, I'm talking about, I was doing acupuncture on a daily basis. And like 3-4 days, they were done. They were over the illness. And these are people, because of their chronic states of disease, had I not done the acupuncture, they could have ended up in a hospital or worse, right? So that's what acupuncture is. It helps to stimulate the nervous system. It releases chemicals into the muscle, into the spinal cord, in the brain. And these biochemical changes it can stimulate the body's natural healing abilities. Now, the body's natural healing abilities, that's how God designed our bodies to be able to heal and repair itself. When we came across pathogens, when we came across injuries, it's able to heal itself. If I cut my finger by accident with paper or a knife, I don't need to tell it what to do. My body naturally will stop the bleeding and will start to heal and repair that area, right? Now, my job is to keep the wound clean so it doesn't get infected. But the body has its own natural built-in healing mechanisms to heal. So acupuncture is going to promote the physical healing, and like I said, mentally and emotionally, it helps too. Because oftentimes what we find through acupuncture is that a lot of the disease states is because this person's overthinking, or they're thinking the wrong thoughts, they're having strong emotions. And so the organ systems that we know is, for example, the liver. If you're angry and frustrated and resentful, that becomes into bitterness. And so you can have problems with your liver, you can have problems with the gallbladder physically, but also there'll be signs and symptoms in your eyes and in your face and other symptoms that you will present because you have a lot of anger, and it physically will manifest that way. The kidneys tend to be impacted by fear. So during COVID, a lot of people had a lot of fear. And so kidney health is really important. They tend to, like I said, low back pain oftentimes it's because of fear. It's instability, being able to provide, for your well-being financially or so forth. So fear, impacts our low back, which our kidneys are in that area. And so you have all these different systems. The lungs are, for example, the emotions that affect the lungs is grief, sadness, and it's unexpressed emotions, I should say. It's emotions that have not been healthy, expressed in a healthy way, and you just stay stuck in your body, and it starts to impact these organs. And so we know that the human body has over 2,000 acupuncture points, a lot of them in the head. I'll teach you one, the very top of your head. If it's parallel to, if you look at your ears and go straight up to your head, that's a really good point. If you're having difficulty concentrating, if someone's about to pass out and lose consciousness, that's a good point. You can push on it, you can tap on it. It'll help to bring consciousness to the brain, right? It's stimulating the brain. There's another point right above the lip, in that little dip above your lip, that if you push on that, if someone is about to pass out and you push that point and stimulate, it'll bring him back to like consciousness. And so there's many different points. There's the one between the thumb and the index finger in that little dip area. That's the command point to the head. So if you have a headache and you push on that, that's a natural way. You just got to push really deep though. And mine's is tender right now and I don't have a headache, but if you're thinking a lot, you have a headache, if you push on that point really hard, the most painful out of the two is the side that usually the headache is on. And if you push on that and stimulate it, it'll help relieve some of that pain. And so these are different ways that I find that it's very unfortunate that some people may be misled or misinformed, or they don't understand how acupuncture works. And they might think it's voodoo or something, whatever they've been taught. And they might be missing out on a really great therapy that can help them physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it's not to say that we make this like God. I think that's where the misconception comes. Anything that we replace God with and we idolize, it can be anything. Honestly, and this is not to be mean, like, because I work with so many different people, but in the Christian community, coffee is like a big drug for them. If I tell most Christians, like, I need you to stop drinking coffee because it's really hurting your health, they freak out. And that to me it's not healthy. When you become dependent on a substance, anything, that's idolizing. You're relying on that. And so you're using what we, in Chinese medicine, we call that artificial energy. Yeah. Coffee, energy drinks, things that stimulate you, they're artificial energy. So, that's sinful in itself. I can say, well, don't you believe in God's power, healing power, and Holy Spirit energy? That's the energy you should have. But if we want to live holistic, holy lives, then we need to have integrity in how we live life. And we need to be responsible. And it's not to say you can enjoy coffee, but I have seen some people, they start their day with 2-3 cups of coffee, and they're doing that throughout the day. And this is super bad for your adrenal glands. It's not good for your brain. There was a study recently that I saw where they did before and after CT scans of the brain. So they did a CT scan before, and they gave the person like 4 ounces of coffee. And then they did the CT scan again, and they showed a reduction of blood flow to the brain. So you might have physical energy, but what is it doing to your brain? Now, this makes sense why people with ADHD benefit from, caffeine and slowing their nervous system down, because it's slowing the blood flow to the brain. So, these are not healthy outlets either. I really want you to understand how the meridians and the nerves, they're electrical, it's neuronal pathways in the body. So it's the nervous system. Yes, there's terminology that we've been trained, like the yin and the yang and qi, and that's their vocabulary they use. I can say that qi, which is energy, it's our spirit, it's spiritual energy. The yin and yang, I see this in our hormones, why they used it, because men and women have the same hormones. But the difference is men have a lot of testosterone. They have a little bit of estrogen and progesterone, just a little bit. And women, they have a lot of estrogen and progesterone, just a little bit of testosterone. And just to give you an idea of what testosterone looks like in a woman and a man, a man will make, in a healthy optimal male, they'll make between 700 and 900 units of testosterone. Where women, we just need to be between like 5 and 40, 44, and we're good. That's a huge difference. That's where I see the yin and the yang, is that men and women, though we're human, we are built a little bit different. And so that impacts our health, obviously different. So like I said, we diagnose based on symptoms, doing the pulse diagnosis. And so what are some of the conditions that can be helpful? I have seen great results for physical pain, anything that's musculoskeletal, arthritis, back pain, muscle weakness, things like that. I had a young man who couldn't walk, was coming in a wheelchair, and we were doing acupuncture every week, and then he's coming in with crutches, and then we're doing acupuncture every week, and all of a sudden he's walking in without no assistance, and that's all the nerve, working on the nervous system to vitalize these organs that have been weakened. And so this is why I say that it would be a great disservice for people to not really understand how this works and really be able to optimize it. But then you can work on things like digestive issues. There's great points for constipation, diarrhea, IBS, anything that's digestive, even nausea, right? Vomiting. If there's emotional stuff like anxiety and depression, there's a lot of points in our ears that help us to regulate our nervous system, insomnia, nervousness. There's anything that's respiratory, sore throats, runny nose, eyes, ears, throat type of things. And there's gynecological benefits to doing acupuncture. Women with irregular or imbalances in their menstrual cycle, this can really help to restore and tonify those organs. And then, women with infertility, there's a lot of points that we use to stimulate in the body to give those organs the vitality to help with fertility. A lot of neurological stuff. Some of the most amazing things that I've seen is like I had a 9-year-old child in my office, and this is always heartbreaking to see. She had developed Guillain-Barré syndrome after she received a flu vaccine, which is a very common side effect of it. And she had, like the left side of her face was just droopy. There was no neurological response to that. So we did a few acupuncture points just for her to be comfortable. And then we did more. And then she was able to smile and she was able to regain all of that in a very short time, safe, effective, quick. And she was done with that. So people who have seizures, migraines, headaches, strokes, it's a really great therapy for that. So that's what acupuncture, there's so many other conditions, by the way, that we can use acupuncture for. And you know what? I would rather people do acupuncture than go on narcotic drugs that are having a negative effect on organ systems, or they are, causing addiction problems. So this is a great natural, safe substitute to do it. Another quick thing I wanted to share, what's interesting is that I don't think it's unique to China, because in 2016, I was able to visit the country of Belize. And I was out there with the Mayan people in the jungles out there. It was beautiful, by the way. If you've never been there, you should go. And I was training on like different Mayan abdominal massages that I do in my office also. And one of the things that the woman was teaching us was, oh, you want to stimulate this point on the leg and so forth. And I was thinking that's an acupuncture point. That acupuncture point is actually on point, all puns intended, because that point was specifically to stimulate the uterus, to restore that organ. And so I started to notice that she was exactly on point with the point that was associated to the organ and the function of that. And so they don't call it acupuncture. They just call it massage. And so you can massage these areas. A lot of massage therapists are massaging these same meridians. They don't call them meridians. So it's like you call it tomato, we call it tomato, whatever. But acupuncture has its language because it's so old. But I believe that other cultures around the world we're aware of the body mechanics, right? How the body was designed. And so I found that very interesting. They also were aware of cupping. They didn't call it cupping. They called it something else. That's another therapy that is used in, a lot of the traditional Chinese medicine. And so, hey, I just wanted to, speak a little bit about what is acupuncture, how does it work? And, if it's not voodoo, it's not, again, if you're Christian, it's safe to do. But you know what, to each their own. If you feel this is not for you, it's not for you. But it is a legitimate medical treatment. And I separate any spiritual stuff out of this because it's really physical, it's mental and emotional stuff that come up through this therapy. So if you're interested in maybe receiving some acupuncture, hey, call my office. We'll set you up with an acupuncture session, and it's very relaxing. Believe it or not, people fall asleep with needles on their body. Hard to believe until you actually do it yourself and experience that. But hey, if you have any questions, reach out to my office. You can visit my website for more information on getting some acupuncture for yourself. And until next time, be blessed. Thank you for listening to Physician Heal Thyself, the podcast. If you like what you've heard, please like, share, and subscribe. Help this message reach more people who may need to hear it. Leave your comments. I want to know what you think. If you're interested in learning more about rhinitis, visit our website at raisesndmedcenter.com. Until next time, be blessed.